I told myself I would never change. I'll still be this fine Nigerian babe that I am, but hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Babatunde-Ikotun. I'm a faith and lifestyle content creator living in Ontario, Canada. If this is your first time stopping by, you're welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, hi, it's good to see you again. So by the topic of today, I'll be sharing 10 things I miss about living in Nigeria. And before you come for me, I acknowledge my privilege. I know that things are really bad in Nigeria. I have a lot of family and friends still living back in Nigeria, and day after day I'm praying for their safety, I'm praying for their well-being, I'm praying for things to get better. So this video is not a kind of video that I'm tone deaf concerning the situation in Nigeria. Absolutely not. I'm very well informed. But sometimes as a Nigerian living abroad, there are a lot of things we miss back home, which makes us think and pray, like if things were better, if things were easier back in Nigeria, we'll probably be living back home. But be that as it may, that's not the situation. So I'll be sharing 10 things I miss about living in Nigeria. Point number 1, friends and family. I can't even begin to count how many friendships I have lost because I moved out of Nigeria. With the time difference, trying to maintain relationships with people you love and care about, it's an extreme task, right? Think about it. Toronto is currently like 5 hours different from Nigeria. So that means that when I'm getting off work at 5 p.m, my friends are like heading to bed, so we can't really connect and gist. Then when the weekends come around, we're also tired, we're also busy, we have a lot of things that we're doing, so it makes it really hard to maintain that form of connection and relationship. And it's, oh my god, it actually breaks my heart. The good thing is with social media, you can always see what your friends are posting, but posting does not necessarily mean that you're in the loop on what's really going on in their life, because social media is not totally real, if we're being honest, right? A lot of things we see on social media is what people want us to see. I've had friends go through depressive seasons in their lives, and they were still showing up on social media posting like things were fine. So I really miss that. I can't just drive out of my house and meet up with my friend, or say, oh, we're gonna have dinner every Friday night. Let me talk about family. Like the relationship with my sisters, I wouldn't say it's been the best kind of relationship since I moved, right? Even my nieces, my nephews have not been a tight-knit part of their life. Oh, my nephew took his first step, or my niece did her first. So like all of that I missed. I wasn't there for their birthdays, I wasn't there for their baby dedication. Like there's no, like it makes it really hard. Although I still call, do video calls, how are you, they know me, I'm not a complete stranger to them. I send presents and things like that. But I really miss that. I miss that community, that friendship, that warmth. Like even think about my friends that have had babies here in Canada, right? It was really hard, like no help. Your mom is not going to leave everything that she's doing and come live with you in Canada for 6 months to a year to take care of your child. It's very difficult. So that community, it's really hard. So now I'm lumping 3 things into one: friends, family, community, right? We've heard stories of somebody died in their apartment here in Canada, and it was 3 weeks later until their decomposing body started to smell before they called the cops to go look at the person. The person had died in their apartment. That would never happen in Nigeria because nobody knows how to mind their business. Your neighbor will come to your door, knock, we've not seen you in 2 days, hope everything is fine. You would want to say, oh yeah, I'm okay, I'm just doing this. Like nobody will, like the other day I even saw on Twitter that somebody's mom had slipped and fallen when she was trying to get her mail. So she crawled into her house. Her door was open wide for almost 3 days in a busy suburban neighborhood. So that means the mailman came, people were walking on the street, seeing her door wide open, and nobody stopped to like go check, and she had fell. She was an elderly woman. That would never happen in Nigeria, because if your door is open, people will be like, even if it's for busybody sakes, like people will be curious and be like, what is going on with her, let me go check on her, and that kind of stuff. So it's just something I miss. Like, you'll never be alone. Like, I've had friends that have gone through really isolating series. Like, we think Nigerians are too much, we think people don't know how to mind their business until you move abroad and nobody's checking on you, nobody cares about you, right? I've been living in this my apartment building for like a couple months now, and I don't even know the person that lives next door to me. Even in my old place, I don't know my neighbors. It's very easy for you to live years in a neighborhood and you have no clue who lives next to you. So that's one thing I really miss. I'll say that's the most important thing I miss, which is why I'm dwelling so long on it. That's something I really miss about living in Nigeria. The second thing I miss about living in Nigeria is food. Oh my god, Nigerian food. Like, number one, it's not as pricey, and I understand importation, it's more organic and fresh, right? Sometimes I buy. The other day I was going to make a recipe that Emi had posted on her channel, right? Before she made the soup, she poured the crayfish into the palm oil to make it fry. I tried that and my pot turned into a giant bowl of foam. So two things, either the palm oil was really old or the crayfish was really old. Like, there's no fresh, oh, I'm going to the market, I know the woman that grinds my crayfish, I know the person that, where the person got that pepper that I'm about to eat, or those potatoes, I know it's imported from the north, or things like that. Like, two tiny tubers of yam for $24, and half of it is rotten. Like, this will never happen back in Nigeria. The food back home is fresher, it's more delicious, it's just different. And I won't say it's even much more organic, less processed, most likely to be fresh. So I really miss that, because here you can have a Nigerian diet and you really gain a lot of weight, but back home you can have that same diet and your weight will be the same, or you even lose weight. Like, I really miss authentic Nigerian cuisine. And if you see how much we pay through our teeth for Nigerian food, there's this grilled catfish I enjoy, and I buy from this African restaurant in Woodbridge. I think the catfish is like $40, and then you still pay tax. So it's just so sad. Like, I miss the food. Anytime I go to see, let me tell you, if you have friends that live abroad and they visit Nigeria and they say you should take them to eat, please, it's not time for you to start taking them to go eat burgers and fries. We have abroad, Canada, United States has much more authentic and better burgers and fries than we have in Nigeria. So best believe that if your friend from abroad comes and says let's go and eat, you are taking them to Abula joint, you are taking them to go and eat goat meat pepper soup, you are taking them to go and eat isiewu, you are taking them to go and eat ofen sala, you are taking them to go and eat abacha. That's the kind of things we want. Please don't take me to any of those restaurants. I don't want to eat burger, I don't want to eat fries. I am in the motherland, I am in Nigeria. Please take me, let me go and eat abula, let me eat goat meat that is bigger than my face, let me lick my fingers, let the stew be dripping down my hand. Let me be doing that, please. That's what I want when I visit Nigeria. I don't want to eat pasta. There's better pasta. Everything foreign is better here. So if I'm in Nigeria, I want to eat and enjoy Nigerian. I want to eat pounded yam, the ones that women pounded and they were in wrapper and their breasts were jumping as they were pounding it, that their sweat. That's the kind. Nah, don't take me to any foreign restaurants. Don't do that. Don't do that to your Nigerian friends that live abroad. We don't want that. We want to eat authentic food when we come and visit you in Nigeria. Please and thank you. Point number 3, I miss fashion in Nigeria. The fact that I can see an outfit and look for a fashion designer or a seamstress to make it for me, and it's going to be affordable. I miss that. Even up until alterations, right? Here, like back home in Nigeria, if I buy a pair of pants and I love it, it's perfect, but the waist is too big or something is wrong with it somewhere, I would still buy it because I'll just take it to my neighbor, the tailor in my neighborhood. Oh, please help me adjust, and pay the person money. But here, if I buy something and it's not my size, I don't bother taking it home, because best believe that they say if I buy a $40 pants and I want to go and do adjustments, that 40, I'll probably pay almost $40 to adjust those pants. So what's the use? Like, it kind of defeats the purpose. Like, why would I buy it? So I just miss that fashion. I like the fashion like going to church is like a fashion show. Like everyone is looking good. Even the workplace, like you look good, you look put together. Like it's inspiring. I remember when I first moved abroad, when I was in America, and me being a Nigerian babe that I am, I'm going to class. I have red lipstick on. I have my brows, my eyeshadow, my eyeliner, my powder, and my classmate. And I wear like really cute outfit. Like I look really put together. And my classmates then would be like, "Are you going out for drinks after class?" I'm like, "No, I dressed up for class." And they're like, And they're like in sweatpants and hoodies and things like that. And I mean, and I told myself I would never change. I'll still be this fine Nigerian babe that I am, but I have changed now, because that's how everyone dresses for comfort here. No one is trying to be a slay queen, and like we're all dressed for comfort. Like that's just what it is. I mean, I would never wear like sweatpants to like dinner or like a restaurant or things like that. Of course not. I'll still look put together, but the chances that when I'm going to the grocery store, I'm not going to look put together is very high. So I miss that fashion air, that inspiration, the beauty. Like, oh my god, I miss that so much about Nigeria. Even up until hair, right? Braids, this kind of braids that I'm rocking now. How much did I pay for my braids? Maybe 200. Yeah, I paid $200 for this. Can you imagine? And I can't even think of losing it in 3 weeks time, because I have to use my money's worth. So best believe this braid will be on my head for at least 2 months. But back home in Nigeria, if I want to do my hair every week, I can. Braid this week, Ghana weaving tomorrow. Like, and it's not going to be like bank emptying prices, which is why I can change my hairstyles frequently. I miss that. I miss just being able to waltz into my neighborhood hairdresser, have her wash my hair, steam it, dry it, plait it, do everything, and I know that I'm not going to be crying when I leave her shop because of the amount of money I would pay. I miss that. But here, I don't think I've ever had my hair professionally washed or steamed before. I wash my hair myself. I deep condition my I am moving abroad will make you a DIY queen, but back home these things can be outsourced, right? Like this is my maybe the third time I'm making my hair this year, and this is what we're in September. If I was back in Nigeria, I'd have done my hair at least 16 times. So that's what I miss. I really miss that a lot. And the next point I want to share is labor. Accessibility to labor. I respect moms abroad because you have to be a certain tax bracket to be able to afford a nanny, a home keeper, a cleaner, and all these amazing things to make your life easy. Someone that cooks your meals. But back home, it's easily accessible. I mean, my sister, she has friends that she has one nanny per child. She has 4 children. She has 4 nannies. Each nanny looks after each child, so that child has undivided attention. Here, to even have one nanny, that's like all your paycheck, and that means you have to be on a very high tax bracket. And I'm not saying that I'm not a proponent of wage theft. I feel like people should be paid fairly. It doesn't make sense to be paying someone that looks after your child $15,000 a month, even though they'll be grateful because that's better than where they're coming from. I feel like we should be able to pay people money that makes them feel seen, makes them feel appreciated. I mean, I believe in that. But just the growing up, we had a nanny, we had a live-in maid, we had a driver, we had gate man, we had everything. But I can't even think of giving my children that kind of life here. Like, you have to DIY. What is a driver? You better go and collect your license. I remember when I visited Nigeria, I think for my wedding or something. Like by the time I'm up, the maid is already coming to ask me, "Oh, Auntie Bibi, what do you want for breakfast?" I'm like, "No, I'm intermittent fasting." And she'll be like, "No, there's no intermittent fasting in this house. I can make you yam and egg. I can make you pap and akara." And these are like not easy to make meals. Like these are meals I don't even make myself here, except on weekends when I have time. And she like, I miss that. I miss being able to rest. I miss like even thinking about it, when I have children, I'm not going to have like a living maid or a living nanny taking care of my kids. So everything I have to do with my child has to be 100% responsible for childcare. And you know hard childcare is, not being able to get the break. So I miss that about Nigeria. I miss that a lot about Nigeria. Just having help. Here, if I want to outsource my meal, even when I did a party, from like I'd already spent $300 just for how many bowls of one tray of rice, one tray of chicken. Back home, I can have someone in the house cooking for me. If I don't want someone in the house cooking for me, I can always get like somebody to make this meal. So I actually miss that. Again, I recognize my privilege. I'm not saying everyone in Nigeria has access to these services or can afford to pay for these services. Of course, that's far from it. I acknowledge that I come from a privileged home, I come from a privileged background, and I have privilege, which is why I can even think about these things as what I miss about back home. But it's really makes me really sad. Like life is so much easier when you have people, like a community invested in helping you, helping your family and things like that, and you can pay for it. You can pay for these services. I'm not saying that those services don't come with their cons. Of course, there's a lot of cons. If you ask me, there's a lot of cons, a lot of bad stories, but it's also nice to have access to these things. The next thing I miss about living in Nigeria is ease of ministry and church life. As a young pastor, and I posted on my Instagram a few weeks ago, I believe, about how difficult evangelism here is. Right? You know, back home we don't have a lot of atheists. They exist, but it's not like a majority. At least everyone has some kind of like, even if they don't go to church, even if they don't believe, at least if you talk to them about the love of God, they are receptive, right? Even if it's like, oh no, I don't want to listen, oh, I'm of this religion, at least they have some inkling of like who God is, like acknowledging that he exists and he created heavens and earth and all of that. But here is different. When I went out to evangelize with my friends a couple weeks ago, I met this lady. We were gisting, talking. She was in grad school. I told her about my experience in grad school. We are just having a good connection. I was like, oh, I was wondering, have you ever heard about Jesus? Like, just after we had created a tight, like a close rapport, I've ever heard about Jesus. And she physically shut down. Like, she physically shut down. She's like, no. Like, it was like I mentioned Beelzebub, like I mentioned the demon's name. Like, she shut down, she carried her stuff and she left. And I was like, I was so confused. At least back home, maybe I've heard about Jesus. Even person has never heard about Jesus, which is very unlikely. But they're still more likely to like engage you, even if it's like I'm not interested in believing. At least you still get a chance to sow that seed of the gospel in that person's heart. But I didn't even get, like, I was literally shut down. I was shut down. And even as we're trying to build a church, me and my husband as young millennial pastors, we also have struggles. Am I saying is it going to be easy and perfect back in Nigeria? Of course not. There's also going to be a learning curve to that. But church is different here. Ministry is different here. Like, I think maybe one day I can't even begin to explain. It's different. It's a learning curve. It's something you have to learn. Like, even spirituality, like all of that, it's very, very, very different. And I miss that. Like, back home, church, like you go to church, you see your friends, you hang out, like there's a lot of activities, a lot of things to keep you engaged, a lot of things to keep you involved. Like, I miss that. I miss that so much. Next thing I miss about living in Nigeria is the ability to be myself, if that makes any sense, right? The fact that I can always just show up as me, as Bibi, a Yoruba woman, a Nigerian woman. I don't have to try to change my voice to fit into a certain box of what I should be. I don't always have to be a certain way to be accepted. I know this is my home, right? Even if anyone wants to be prejudiced against me, it's not going to be because of the color of my skin. Perhaps it's going to be because of my ethnicity or things like that. So the fact that I miss just being myself, I miss just being able to go out and be my authentic self without being seen as something negative, right? And it actually hurts me a lot because back home I'm so grounded in my identity as a Nigerian, as a Yoruba woman, right? But here I'm like, sometimes you struggle to find a box you fit in, and it's something that I am very concerned of. The next generation of Nigerians, right? Many of us, we've moved out, we've moved to Canada, Europe, America, and we're going to give birth to Nigerian children. Many of us married within the culture or within nationality. We're going to have children that will find it hard to connect to the idea of being Yoruba, right? For example, my children would be Canadian Nigerians, and Canadian Nigerians would not think like Nigerian that I am. Their sense of self, their sense of identity will be pulled for something completely different from me. Like, how would I bridge that gap? How would I connect to them? When I get to that bridge, I'll cross it. But these are certainly things I think about. Like, if I, like, growing up, we didn't have to think about racism. Like, I was never bothered about racism in my classroom. But now my niece is like one of the only black kids in her class. And I'm sure she deals with some kind of racism, even if she doesn't really understand what it means. I know I would never have to worry about racism or things like that, just as a virtue of growing up in Nigeria. But my children will worry about that. My nieces, my nephews, they will actually have to struggle with identity and things like that. For most of us, we already had a strong sense of identity before we moved abroad. So if someone calls us the N-word or treat us a certain kind of way, we're just like, whatever, like, your words don't hurt me. But I feel like for our children, it's to actually get to them, because they don't have a sense of groundedness in their identity as Nigerian, in their identity as Yoruba or Igbo or Hausa or Fulani or Efik or Ishekiri or any of these other Nigerian ethnic groups, and it actually breaks my heart. But we'll keep praying for them that they grow up in their identity in Christ. That's the most important thing anyways, and that really helps them to keep going forward, to keep them connected to their grandparents, to their roots, give them Yoruba names or Igbo names, so that way they have that connection with their home, with their roots. One of the other things I miss about living in Nigeria is the weather. Listen, I know most people say, oh, you know, Nigerian weather makes people black. Go and buy sunscreen. That's all I want to tell you. Go and buy sunscreen and apply it religiously. I miss the weather. Anytime I go to Nigeria, my skin flourishes. And I've spoken to a couple of my friends and they agree. My skin flourishes. Aside from that, winter can be so depressing. Hey, very depressing. It's gray outside. There is no sun for most days. It can be very depressing, and it actually gets to a lot of people. There's this thing called seasonal affective disorder. Like, when the weather changes, it starts to give you it starts to affect your mind. Then you start hearing people dealing with issues of depression and things like that. This is very, very true. But back home, we don't have that, baby. We don't have that, and I miss that. I miss that weather. I mean, I don't miss that rain. That rainy season. I don't miss that rainy season because it gets really bad because the roads are bad and all of that. But the weather is so different. The weather gives me joy. As hot as it may be, as sweaty as it makes you get, buy deodorant, buy sunscreen, you're good to go. But here, I have stories. Maybe I'll do a story time of how I almost died of cold in the winter one of these days. So you guys will know that abroad life, snow is not what you see in the movies that say, oh, snow is so cute, it's so the cold is very cold here. So I'm not a big fan. So I actually miss Nigerians weather when it's summer all the time. I mean, we don't have summer, we have rainy season and dry season in Nigeria, not like summer, winter, fall and all that jazz. I actually do miss that a lot. I do miss the weather. Next thing I miss about Nigeria is festive season. My first Christmas in Canada, I wanted to cry. My friend was back, my roommate then was back in Nigeria. Thank God my big mom invited me over to her house, by which they tried to make it nice. We cooked, we had nice Christmas dinner. But in Nigeria, from like September, Odun Timbo, Odun day, like everyone's like Christmas is almost here. The atmosphere is different, the energy is different, everyone is bustling with excitement. You get to see your cousins, your nieces, your friend. Oh my god, I miss Christmas so much. Like there's always activities, something to do. Here it's just snow, you're mostly at home wearing sweater, drinking hot cocoa. It's not that interesting. Like you try to make it interesting by inviting your friends over for dinner, doesn't mean that it's the same. Christmas season back home, we know how to do Christmas right. Here it's nothing to write home about. It's sad. It's actually really sad, and I don't know if you guys can relate to that, but it's actually sad. So that brings me to all the major things that I miss about Nigeria. If you're watching this and you live in the diaspora, maybe you live in the UK or Canada or United States or Ukraine or Russia or Germany, because I know Nigerians are everywhere, or you're watching this from China, let me know below, what do you actually miss about living back in Nigeria? Let's connect over it. I know it's not trauma, but let's bond over these things. And I think we should also just make a conscious effort to keep praying for our own country, to keep praying that things get better. The elections are coming up. I hope that we're all praying and advocating, even though many of us cannot travel back to vote. But I hope that we're speaking to our family members, letting them know the right person to vote. We all have to take action in what concerns our own country in our best capacity. Donate to your favorite presidential candidate. It's very important for us to actively take part in these things. We not only pray, we also take actions, and we trust God to just, I don't know, take control of that land. I know many of us would actually love to go back, maybe in our 40s, our 50s. It would be nice. But if there's nothing to go back to, like a lot of us don't see ourselves dying when we're old and being buried in this country. I for one don't see myself in my 90s living in winter. I don't. So let's just collectively keep praying for Nigeria, keep praying for our country, and just hope that things get better for us in Jesus' name. Amen. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and share. When you like, it gives me the validation to keep going, to keep sharing this content that you love and you enjoy. So please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share, post on Twitter, post on WhatsApp, post on Instagram, share it everywhere, and tag me at BBLamo04. Till next time, bye. And remember, God is not angry with you. Bye.